welcome to today's video. I am Oliver Mack of Night Foxes Gaming, and today we are looking at the ARL 44 to begin with, and afterwards some Plat gaming. Now, the ARL 44 is a bugger to drive stock. It really is not exceptionally fun, and even after you've got the second turret, which gives you a bit more armor, and the second gun, which gives you a bit more penetration, you still feel terrible driving it if you don't have the upgraded tracks, you don't have especially that engine, and you don't have the last gun. Now, it's touted as being quite a mobile heavy, and when you have the second engine, it certainly is. But the second engine is an 18.8 thousand XP grind, and when you're already looking at nearly 40,000 to do the turret and the guns, and you need another several thousand for the tracks, spending 18.8 thousand XP on an engine just doesn't feel good as a new player. But as you can see, look how slowly we traverse. Look how slowly we turned around here, and look how slowly we reverse. It's incredibly irritating to be driving something that feels, at least, very immobile. But that's what the ARL is, stock. Even now, when I've played it a fair amount, it's up to 86% crew experience. That certainly does not help the amount that takes off your maneuverability. But I've got the second gun, I've got the turret, obviously, which you have to have to mount the gun, and that's what I've researched, because the gun is what this tank is supposed to be all about. But if you want to use the gun, you have to be able to get to positions of advantage. And when you're driving it without that engine and without those tracks, it's incredibly difficult to put it in those good positions of advantage. When driving it with the original turret, it feels even worse, because you can't even hope to bounce shots. I have a problem with the way that tanks work stock for newer players. I think if you're grinding up a tank line, so you don't have much free experience. Let's say, for example, you don't have a premium tank with which to grind credits, so you can't stack your tanks full of consumables and provisions. And let's say, for example, that you are a player who doesn't have a lot of time to play other tanks. They want to get up a tank line because they need something, a high tier tank for clan wars, for example, if they've joined a clan, or they need a higher tier tank because it's going to get them more damage, which is going to get them more credits. If you need those things, driving anything stock is terrible. And look how slow this is. 5 kilometers an hour. And that's turning. So you have to do this. It hurts to drive this tank at times. It really is just... It's painful to drive tanks like this stock. I don't know what the solution would be for having tanks. I don't particularly like having the amount... Like, I know that it makes sense logically for your crew to need time to train up in a tank, but really the amount that it takes off the performance, the amount that just having the poor equipment takes off the performance of tanks, it makes it incredibly difficult for you to get games that are good enough for you to have enough XP to grind up to get those other components. And by the time you have those other components and you're looking to move on to the next tank, is when the tank is most enjoyable to play. It feels odd to me that you'll have the most potential for enjoyment in a tank at the point where you're getting rid of said tank. Anyhow, I don't know what the solution would be. I just needed to vent to you all, and I assume most of you who experience the same pain of grinding tanks for newer players. I'm less of a newer player, and this is more of being a new account because I've just come over to Europe this year. The ping on Asia is absolutely horrible, and of course, when I go back to Australia, we'll be grinding up a main account which has some premium tanks on it, which means that I have a lot more money, a lot more silver to spend. Now, NuclearHotdog, he's a very nice chap. He has his own YouTube channel, the Boom channel, and he puts up Blitz videos on there. So it's very nice to platoon with mates like that. And so we accept his invitation and off we go. Both of us happen to be recording today, so we both want to do well. This is what I'm grinding up this very irritating PC38NA towards, by the way. It's that VK30p, which, when we do get it, I will be doing a review on because I'm very excited to play it. This is the ARL. The problem with this, you can see I don't have the tracks, I don't have the engine. It's 18.5k for the better gun. It was 15.5k to get this gun. It was 6.1k for the turret. It's a painful grind, and you can see 42 millimeters of penetration is what goes up on that gun, and you get a bit more rate of fire, and you get a better aiming time. Like, it's an incredible upgrade to go to that gun, and you can't use it. The Sherman is not quite as difficult to grind, I find, because you have a fairly good gun to begin with, so you can make it up through this easily. The turret is a nice thing to research because it gives you a bit more bouncing. So we're going into tier 7. The only tier 7 tank I have at the moment, the Black Prince. You may notice that the Scent one has disappeared from my garage. I sold it to buy the Cromwell to use for Clan Wars, which incidentally we won. Grumpy U is the best clan in Europe. I think it's very clear. I haven't got the upgraded tracks on the Black Prince because if a medium gets behind you, you're already dead. It's terrible to drive this tank with a tier 5 engine, but the Black Prince is probably my second favourite tank in the game, the Cromwell or the Comet being my favourite. And we're nearly there to the Carnarvon. We're nearly up this grind. Anyway, this game is fairly interesting. He's in the LTTB, and I'm in the Black Prince. You could not find two tanks more different at tier 7. Top tier, which is always very nice, and we have the heavy advantage. You'll see as I click away at these tank names that we have vastly superior heavies. So we will have far more people who are capable of taking Temple easily and just shooting down those corridors. So the entire team decides to go Temple. I am steering with the hand under the chat box, so I nearly run into that rock, but we get around it. And this is a game where looking at the team compositions completely decides the entire match. Always look at the team comps before you start. Always, 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 always. Even if you don't understand, the results of the battle will give you some indication of what is good and what is bad to do with certain team comps. Ours is very heavy-centric, so we're going the heavy route. The entire team is going the heavy route because if any of our lights or mediums had gone to the other side, they would have been wrecked by the 4 mediums and 3 lights of the enemy team, who all went around C. Now, with Cat Day, we're driving to B. If nothing else, we'll win on points if these people don't come up and face us, so they have to, which is what you really want people to do in a heavy most of the time. You want them to have to come to you cross ground you control. I'm going to move up to B and start capping that. The rest of the team is going to move mostly forwards of B. This KV-13 is in a terrible spot. Never push up there if you can help it when you know that the entire enemy team has gone Temple. It's just terribly punishing to come up unless you have excellent gun depression. If you do have excellent gun depression, if you're a Cromwell or a Comet, it might be decent to think about going up there. But you're only spotting. If you can spot from any other place, like on one of the hills, it is much, much better for you. Now, this T-29 is being really a hero. He's gone out too far, so he's been caught and surrounded but he holds them off for long enough that we can get them trapped. They can't come up this hill. We have the high ground. So myself and this VK will pound them into the ground. We get shot after shot after shot. They cannot really shoot back easily. They're on a hill. We have the high grounds. I have gun depression. There's really not much else to say here. There's not really too much they could have done, but when they're fighting a Black Prince, which has a decent armor profile in front and more than enough hit points to take up a couple of shots, you can see we bounce a lot here. You can just sit there and pump damage. We're still moving back and forwards, of course. Always keep moving if you can. And you are in a good enough bit of cover that you won't get spotted because you're moving. And we just clean this game up. Because they went around as one and we went around as one, but we had the high ground. If your team is all heavies and you can go heavy routes, it's usually a good idea. And try and get the rest of your team to follow on. It's very difficult sometimes to get the team to follow on, but do your best because it is very important for you to stay together, have a game plan in mind, and looking at the team comps is the first step to creating said game plan. We didn't do too much damage that game. It was really a very team-wide effort, the damage of that game. And I'm saying nicely done to the LTTB because nicely done to my platoon mate because he did stick with me. He did come the right route. He did go around the right side and hit them from behind. He had decent damage, more than me. He just had a different role. He was pushing, I was holding. And if you can play in a platoon with someone that you know won't play terribly, it's an incredible advantage. Because when you have even one other person who you know will follow through with you, who will stick with you, who will make the plays together in sync with you, then that's a massive, massive difference to when you have an entire team that is not acting together. We're not top tier here. I feel that facing any IS variant is terrible when you don't have APCR. I am saving credits. I want to buy tanks. I can't use APCR. I'm saying, do we want to go center? Because even though we have a lot of heavies, they have better and more. They have the same amount of heavies, but better, and they have a big tank destroyer. So I'm saying we need to not go town because we'll get trapped and die, and you will see later in this video that is exactly what happens in this game. Our three heavies go town. I'm not going town because I can't pen an IS frontally without APCR. Taking some shots on B, trying to get the reset, and I'm actually shooting very close to him. You'll see him pop in a second. He's right there. I'm pushing up to the center because I'm thinking if I can get any side shots on them, I'm going to have a much better chance of penning. If you know you cannot pen an enemy team frontally, you cannot pen their tanks, you have to look around for a side position, even if you're in a heavy like mine. You can see our team is getting blasted, the enemy team is completely destroying us. I think IS Russian tanks are ridiculous at this tier. That T-71 has done what his team needed him to do. He's run up and capped the center, and then he's buggered off. Our LTTB, our mediums, and our lights have gone round to A, capped that. They're moving around to support us. They're killing this Ferdinand. But the damage is done. If I'd been in town, I would be getting just as wrecked as the rest of my team. The only thing I've done here is conserve my hit points a bit more, and I've finally got into a position where I can take some side shots, and lo and behold, most of the enemy team has already moved on. So I take one into the T-71. I think we do 400 damage this game. I cannot pen this IS-3. Anyway, look. There's no penning him. It's a problem, really, for anyone facing a Russian heavy who has not the speed or agility to get around them, or to easily get into positions of advantage. You can't pen them without Premo. I don't have Premo because I'm driving budget. Now, the IS is pushing out. We're hoping to get a side shot. We're not looking at our mini-map. Always look at your mini-map. This Panther comes in. He gets a ram. We take a shot. He has incredible penetration. It's Panther. So him being at close range, there's absolutely nothing we can do. And we're done. We could have tried to maybe move forward to go round him, but we can't go fast enough that his turret can't traverse to keep up with us. The LTTB? My platoon mate makes a very valiant effort here. Indeed, he gets a valiant effort for his attacks this game. You can see he's buggering off around. He's trying to reset camo and then go and cap. He wants to stop A. He can't stop A. Can't get there in time. There's no way he can win at this point, especially as his teammate, the STA-1, is trapped and about to die. The STA does get a kill, which is excellent, but then he gets mobbed. The LTTB is taking shots, gets the T-71. Really, a T-71 has no business dueling when he's a one-shot. He's a very mobile tank. If you are a T-71 in this situation, run away. You can do it very, very adeptly using this cover in front of him. Never just sit still if you're in a duel with someone and you need to get away. If he'd hit that shot, he may actually have had a chance in this duel. Unfortunately, it does miss. He goes around. He's trying to outdistance the Panther's traverse, and he is, because the Panther is not traversing his tracks. Always remember, in a duel, your turret is not the only thing you have that can traverse. Always traverse your tracks in the direction as well. Do not just point your gun at the enemy. Despite his valiant effort at the end, there's no way he can possibly get back from those 3 caps. I do nearly 1,000 damage. He does 2,753, which is a very valiant effort there. And I ask him, did you get a valiant effort? Because you certainly deserved it. Now, that game was very difficult in the sense that the entire team of heavies went down against another team which went down with more people and better tanks. Yeah, we got stuffed by the town. Our heavies could not hold. I couldn't have held if I'd gone. And that's the end of that. There's simply no way I could really come back from that, and that happened to lose us the game. In that spot, there isn't that much you can do. There is not that much you can do. If you can perhaps persuade the rest of your heavies, you can tell them there's no way going down. Town's a death trap. There's no way you'll survive that. I did not convince them. I was planning, if I got there a bit faster, if you're in a more mobile tank, it's certainly a good idea, I think, to go to the center on that map when they have heavies. Try and get side shots in. Unfortunately, we were unable to. The moral of the story really is, if you can plat with someone, plat with them. It's very, very helpful to have a platmate who does what you do, who moves with you, who goes with your plans, and who you know you can depend on. Having a fast tank and a light tank in plat is also very interesting and very useful, because one can hold, one can flank, and I wish you very well in your endeavours. That's all for today. There will be another video next week. There will always be a video every Saturday, and if I can make one during the week, I will do that as well. And always remember, if at first you do not succeed, you are not the only one who has failed.